Well, greeting fellow denizens of the internet. I have returned once again for another Counter Monkey. If you're looking for Spoonies, you should have been obvious by the title that says Threemarlets. Counter Monkey, that is not part of Spoonies. Although he is the inspiration for this, and we thank him for it. But since I made the first one, I figure, you know what, it probably would be more appropriate for me to do a podcast to touch upon my first experience playing a pen and paper RPG, or tabletop RPG, whatever you want to call it. Now, in my younger years, back in high school, I wanted to touch D&D with a 10-foot pole. Even though, I was kind of nerdy, you could say, because I really like science fiction stuff. But you have to keep in mind the type of high school I went to. We're here in Jersey, so it's probably different than if you were out in the the Midwest or possibly overseas in Europe. I know a few of your subscribers from over yonder and actually from all over the place. But where I'm at, you could be like a kind of a jock in high school and still be really into science fiction and stuff and not be considered a nerd or anything like that. We didn't really have that. We didn't even really have that cliques and stuff because, one, our high school was way too big, and two, the captain of our football team was the guy that when episode 3 came out spent the night in a Star Wars tent reading Star Wars comics. And by the way, our football team actually had a winning season that year, and believe me, Jersey's competitive because we have so many teams to go against. So it wasn't like we were a horrible team either. No, we were damn good. And I myself was on the track team at the time. I was a shot putter. We took big heavy balls and threw them. But gaming wise, I didn't like RPGs back in the day. I was a doomhead, as some people refer to them, a first-person shooter player. And I believe me, I played a lot of first-person shooters. But it wasn't until later that I started finally kind of breaking down my barriers. I saw Final Fantasy, my friends playing Final Fantasy. I was like, pfft, pathetic. Come on, man, that's not a real game. Get me a shotgun. I was basically today what you'd look at some of those younger kids that just play Call of Duty. But I matured. Near the very end of high school, I started getting into a little bit more of video game RPGs, and eventually I somewhat relented and finally played an actual tabletop RPG. Now, the progression kind of was gradual. One of the things I got drawn into was I did Warhammer for a little bit. That's a big breakdown. But Warhammer I was fine with because it was a strategy game. And I was more willing to do the strategy stuff than the pen and paper, because it is kind of just like a more advanced chess when you really think about it. You're not doing the role-playing element. But one of the things that eventually led me to doing it, ironically, was Channel Awesome's, and more specifically, I forget the name of the campaign, but I started watching on Lord Cat's stream Spoonie's campaign that he was, I forget the name of it, damn it, I forget it. I forget that one, but I started watching because it was hilarious to see, these guys who you can consider professional comedians. After all, they kind of make stuff primarily for jokes, and they get paid for it. Hence, they're professionals, despite they'll probably say they're not, but they are. And I was starting to enjoy it, even after kind of Spoonie dropped out after the first session or two of the Wormwick campaign. I started following the Wormwick campaign, and I was enjoying it, and by watching it I was picking up on the rules and stuff, how to play, and I finally went to my buddies who I knew played Dungeons & Dragons and said, hey, you play D&D, let me get in on this. And so, lo and behold, I finally showed up, got in, explained to me how I set up my character, all that. Great help from my buddies. In fact, you can check out my buddies' work if you go if you want to check out Mystic Realms LARP. The totally on there, buddy of mine. I don't do the live action role playing, but he's got his own set of videos about how to live action role play. He helped me get into that whole thing. So send some people his way. He doesn't have as many subscribers as we do, or as I do. Rather envious because he actually puts a lot more production value into his videos. But I digress. Anyway, he got me in, and my God, there are ways to start off in role playing. There are very few people out there who can legitimately claim as their first kill in an RPG on their first night as epic as a kill as I had. And I'll explain the circumstances. So I joined in this group, and apparently the setup that I had jumped in on, I think the character I rolled was a sorcerer, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. It was either a sorcerer or a rogue, thief, assassin, one of those. From what I recall, we kind of dropped that campaign and started a brand new one because the player base was changing too rapidly. Like, I was coming on, and then a couple other people dropped out, and they decided to restart. But the setting was basically there's a huge orc goblin army advancing on this kingdom, and the only way to really stop this size of force was to gather, a series of like 5-6 items from throughout the land, and they'll form some super weapon. Your basic RPG setup. Let's face it, that's one of the classic setups for a DM. To get people to go all over the place is just to say, well, you need to assemble this ancient artifact and gather them, but their pieces are spread throughout the land. It's one of the most overused devices, but it's still very effective in just getting people to change locations. And when I jumped in, this was, if you remember, if any of you have seen Spoonie's Counter Monkey, which I'm assuming probably a couple of you have, he says, "Don't get on the boat." First day, I had to get on the boat because the one we had, we're in a pirate village setting, and like a Tortuga type town, because we have some sort of device. Actually, I think this is, now that I think about it, I think he based this on Dragon Ball, because there was some way we could track where these things were. I'm almost certain now that I think about it, because the same DM use this same plot device with like the Dragon Ball set, but only he was a lot more blatant the next time. I just realized that. Anyway, so we had a device and it told us, and we knew wherever it was like due east, and then we were at the ocean. And we got on the boat. I think we wound up hijacking a pirate ship, if I recall correctly. I think we hijacked. We either hijacked or we paid for it or bribed or something. Something along those lines. It didn't matter. I forget how we got on. But we had to go out. So they take us out to the boat. And, I didn't even think, oh shit, they're going to throw some crazy ass shit at us tonight. No, that's not what happened here. I did not think of that. Because I was still new. I was like, okay, we're just going to go on a boat. We'll land somewhere and go explore. Yay. No, we're like out in the middle of the ocean, and of course we get attacked in the middle of the night. The ship sinks, but this was all part of the plan, I think. And we got, basically, it was the mermen, or the Lachlar, or whatever the hell they're pronounced. They're a race that like looks like Creature from the Black Lagoon almost. They're not the what do you call them? Yeah, they're not the Shagwin. Shagwin, is that how you pronounce them? I forget. No, but they're not them, but they're kind of like them. They're basically kind of mermen. But yeah, we get attacked, captured, brought down to their underwater city. And we're being held captive. But apparently, as we're being held captive, I'm not sure, the DM must have planned this one. I gotta say, sure, I got a few ideas for a video later on to do about saving, how a DM has to save himself if he gives the party an encounter that they just can't handle, and he should have known better. But that's for another day. But we're captured. We're sitting in this thing, and eventually, apparently, the queen of the city comes in, like, lets us out. I forget the conversation that took place, but there's something up here. And as we're kind of escaped, we all kind of come to the conclusion we're in the middle of an enemy city that's obviously hostile to us. There's no way in hell we can just walk around and not grab their attention, because as far as we can tell, everybody in this city is like a merman. And now that I look at my monster list here, the Lokatha, I think that's what they were pronounced. look it up. Yeah, we can't pass for this. I think I was a human. We had another guy that was an orc. We had a mechanical guy. I forget who else we had, but yeah, nobody looked like these things. So we all came to the conclusion, yeah, we're gonna stealth this entire thing, because if we get into trouble and get into an encounter, it's gonna be nasty. So we're kind of stealth. We break off because we got to find this thing. We also, one of us, I think we recall, there were submarines. That's how we got brought back down to the city and we were able to breathe. So we kind of wound up. Actually, no. Wait a minute. I remember it. I remember what happened now. We weren't attacked on the way. We wound up hijacking on a pirate ship, and like the pirates actually wound up having been engulfed in like a submarine, and we were brought down, and we basically were put in a situation where they thought we were pirates bringing weapons for them. And as it turns out, the evil overlord that was our arch nemesis was in league with this king, and we tried to do an assassination on the guy and completely failed. That's when they threw us in prison. I think I had like a knife. The first time I threw a knife at like somebody else. Just like tried to do the Conan thing from Conan the Destroyer, and like in the middle of the conversation was quite obvious that we weren't getting through. Like they knew we were bluffing, that we weren't part of their party. The one guy went, "Enough talk," basically, and threw his sword at the king of the city, and the king just caught it in his hand. It's like, well, that was nice. Threw his sword around, had us all seized because we're in the middle of a court with like 100 of these guards. And that's why we were thrown in prison, and that's why the queen, she knew that we were willing to kill him. She did not like him, so got really saying we were sneaking around. We split up. I go with another individual who our goal is to just try to secure transport out of this city, get back to the submarine base where we first came in. The rest of the party went and decided to do the actual kill, because my thinking was, I think I was playing like a thief or a rogue type in this one. So my character, I figured, my character doesn't care about revenge. He just wants to get the hell out of here. Yeah, the other guys were more like honor-bound fighter. So I decided to volunteer. Yeah, we got to secure a way out first. So I run. We wind up. Oh, this was the first time I did a bluff check too. There was one point where I was just like, as we're walking through, apparently another group of these mermen wound up attacking the city, so it's quite obvious there was some sort of civil war going on, and it was described as a massive battle. And we almost got into an encounter where the guards were about to attack us, and then more of these mermen brought in, and they just wound up doing a melee, and we avoided it. This is all while the rest of the party is like killing the main guys. I think then we got into another encounter. There was like one guard, and he was killed before I had a chance to do anything. So still hadn't killed anything. But I did do one great epic bluff check. Because the city is just falling apart, there's actually people fighting in this palace that we're in. We notice there's still 2 guards in this one passage we have to get through. We're like, oh crap. And I was like, you know what? Let's just blow right through these guys and go, oh crap! The palace is under attack! Get up there, man! Which, by the way, we didn't have to actually pass the bluff check. This was a good little manipulation of the bluff check rule. We weren't bluffing. There was actually, I guess, rival city guards. We never figured out what exactly was going on with this whole scenario. But it for the DM, it was just a way to excuse why we can get this small party running around the city and not being attacked, because the rest of the army is fighting this battle. Or maybe he had a larger goal in mind, but we never had the opportunity to really talk with them. So we decided to do this run through, and the DM, I think, was like, you know, if these guys are okay, I think he ruled the bluff check, but it was like, they're not bluffing, so they got a really, really high bluff check score. Because as far as the guards are concerned, we were telling the truth. So the guards just went like, oh shit, run up there. Boom, bingo. didn't have to worry about the encounter, especially since my character was really low level since I just started that day. I was like, I'm not getting into a fight with any of these guys. They're going to kick my ass. So we wound up securing... At some point, we wound up running through, regrouping, and we're like in the actual like town section, the civilian section of the city. It's like already the water's starting to flood. There's like giant creatures outside attacking. Like, apparently they have a dragon turtle. Like it's like slamming itself into the glass dome around this city. So water's already starting to leak in. We're going into into a couple like the houses. Like I go into one, I find a crate. I'm like, as like the thief rogue, like these houses are abandoned. I'm going in and checking out this stuff. I think we actually had a purpose in that, like we had to find some sort of key to get into the final like escape bay. Yeah, this was a while ago, so I'm trying to recall this. But I go in, I find a chest, and it's like has gold. It's got like equipment in there. I'm like, oh sweet. Then we get our tinker buddy, who was a warforge, kind of a warforge. And in this particular setting, he was not actually a player character. One of the other players, or one of the other guys we were playing with, somehow in an earlier quest wound up acquiring this guy. I think he called him like Tinker Tot or something along those lines. And it was like me and him were like just, as everyone else is getting wet, we're just like riding on the back of this giant warforge. That's very, he's not as... I'm not sure if he was technically a warforge or just an automaton. But, yeah, he didn't say anything, he just kind of walked in and just followed the instructions of his master. But yeah, we're up high and dry, like we find something cool, we go down, grab it. The other guy who's on checking out the other side of the houses, I think he had an encounter with this like a scared fleeing soldier, and then he gets into another house and there's like a scared family, and he's like, I'm gonna intimidate them. He completely botched it, and he tried to intimidate the child, and the child just like gave him like stuck out his thumb, or not his thumb, his tongue at the guy. And he's just like, oh, I fail at this. Was not a good day. Well, we wound up getting the equipment, meeting back at the sub bays. Still haven't killed anything. First day, I'm having some fun. We did a little role playing when we first met the king. We tried to bluff our way, saying, yeah, absolutely, we're here to deliver your supplies. The guys that had killed the king, they also got the jewel piece that we needed, or whatever it was, the MacGuffin. So we're looking at the bay. I get into one sub, I get on the gunner seat. I'm like, sure. I don't have any mechanical skills, so I can't drive this thing. But the guy that had the automaton, of course, to maintain the automaton, I guess, he had mechanical skills. So I go, yeah, sure, I'll get on a gunner seat. This is medieval times, but somehow we have a submarine with a gunner seat on it. And, there's 2 submarines. We bust out of this thing. But we kind of forgot about the dragon turtle. So the dragon turtle sees 2 enemy subs leaving the city. He's like, oh, I'm going after those things. So we have a fight with the dragon turtle, and the reason, and in the end, we're maneuvering around, not getting attacked by the thing. The pilot's got to roll his abilities to not get attacked. The gunner's got to roll to attack. But since I'm firing these underwater cannons, they do a lot more damage than if I were to stab it with my knife. So eventually, after a couple rounds, we wind up killing the dragon turtle. So my first kill in Dungeons and Dragons, very first day I started with like a real low level character. I think they were like being really generous and like gave me like up to 4, like they started me on a level 4 just so I'd be kind of on par with the rest of the group a little bit. But yeah, like level 4 rogue fucking killed a dragon turtle first day. That's really fucking hard. That is really hard to do. You should not have that happen. but it did. And it was, again, all legit. It's not like we started off. For everyone else, this was like about almost halfway through there. I'm not sure if this was the entire campaign or this was just part of the campaign, but the big quests that they were doing, they had many sessions. I'm not sure how many before I jumped on. Because XP can sometimes be a bit lacking. Depends on the DM, really. But yeah, not too many people can claim a legit, like some. Okay, yeah, it's true. I had a device doing it for me, but it's still the first thing I killed. So maybe not 100% legit, but it's like I killed a dragon turtle the first time I ever played it. Most people kill RUSs or something else, like, oh, it's your first day, we'll get you used to the mechanic, or at the very least it's like, oh man, they threw an orc at me. Or a goblin. Yeah, that's normal. Or you just get into like a bar fight and like, well, this guy's attacking you, time to like whip out the sword and hit him on the head with shit. No, not too many people take on what is normally like a big epic level boss. Again, we got away with it because we had the subs, but still, that's an experience, and that got me hooked in. I was like, okay, first day, that's all right. First round, that's what we did. Oh, count me in for more of this. Although I think by the next time we showed up, like, it was already clear, like, the good chunk of the party was not coming along, or was like our group kind of was already breaking up. I think we already had the idea of doing another game because we were going to do an evil campaign, which, oh my. Well, actually, from what I recall, we like had that, and we did a couple sessions of an evil campaign, and then we started the evil campaign I just thought of after that, when I finally had my bearings. Oh yeah, that is a video. Because that's one thing somebody else has not talked about in his, is about playing an evil campaign. And I think he has talked about, and a lot of really hardcore gamers like to talk about this, is they don't like to play the evil characters, but with the group I was in, like, everyone was like, we're doing an evil campaign. And I've got to talk about that one. Because, oh my, this crap we did in that one. Actually, we had a long period for where we did like this, a series of evil campaigns after that, and they were kind of fun. I'll have to get into the one that involves kidnapping old ladies, and I'll have to talk about the other one, but we actually got to a conclusion because again, most campaigns just kind of collapse. You abandon them and you do something else. Like, okay, a couple people aren't showing up anymore. Anyone else want to have a campaign in mind? Yeah, normally there's always somebody with a backup campaign. But, oh man, that one that we dropped, that we like ended at just a perfect moment plot-wise, where it was kind of set up. At this point, I think our characters are content, even though they're evil. I think they're pretty much poised to just take over this entire town with an undead invasion, and that is a completely. There's a lesson to be learned in both of the campaigns I'm thinking of. One is just about being evil and how to play evil, and the other is about taking advantage of the DM when he gets really, really tired. Oh yeah, oh, and he doesn't realize what he just said. That one, I think a lot of players, because there's a lot of advice given for an ideal D&D session, but not too many people talk about like when you're playing D&D, it's late at night, and your DM's he's got the quietness, like he's starting to drop off a little bit. You can see him. He's like, as soon as you leave, he's gonna probably fall asleep. That's the time to strike, my friend. Especially when he's supposed to be role-playing somebody, like he's supposed to be role-playing the quest giver. That's when you can say, well, we demand this, because I gotta stop, because that's a whole other video. But yeah, first time playing, killed a fucking dragon turtle. How many people can say that? It's a dragon with as a turtle. It's a dragon with extra protection on it, and it's in the water. Actually, from what I recall too, it's like right after we killed the dragon turtle, a kraken appeared. But at that point, I was like, yeah, we had a couple of close calls with that our ship. Like that dragon turtle almost took us out once or twice. I was like, how far away is the kraken? Oh, so we've got a little bit of a lead on him. Yeah. I'm going my ass to the surface. Yeah, we're going straight up to the surface now. We're not messing around with this stuff. No. And apparently another character wanted to do it, but it was quite clear that this was just this was one of those DM moments where it was like foreshadowing a villain we're gonna have to tackle eventually, because one of the other characters apparently had a backstory with the Kraken, which is why the DM brought it out. But it was like, no, we're not having this encounter today. I don't want to die the first day because we're in a sub, and Krakens and Dragon Turtles do not take prisoners. There's no getting out of that part. But yeah, first day, first time, that's your kill. So signing off. Stay tuned for more of these. I got quite a few to go with.